Well, you can't have the NBA Finals without two teams. One of the teams hasn't been there since 1999. Can you guess who we're talking about? I mean, if you're living in a cave, then I guess you won't know. But the New York Knicks advanced last night, blew out the Cavs yet again, 130-93 yesterday. So, of course, they covered the 2.5-point spread. That was easy. Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen, Brunson, they had quiet games, but they really weren't needed in this one. In fact, Landry Shamet had 16 points off the bench, but Mike Brown did a great job. The Knicks are back in the finals, and the Cavs are going home. Here's Brown on knowing that the Knicks had a chance to get this far, and certainly for Kenny Atkinson saying that they definitely took a step forward, but certainly getting swept by the Knicks wasn't optimal.
Mike, kind of on that though, like when you took the job, obviously part of it was you have to, the deal is you should take the team to a higher place than they were last year. Do you feel doing this now, do you feel validated at all personally?
I never really thought about it like that. I mean, you know, again, our business is funny. My previous job, I supposedly took him to a point that was higher, and, you know, it didn't work out. So, you know, again, I truly felt that this team was an NBA Finals team. I thought we had a true opportunity, because some jobs you take, you're like, okay, we can get better. We have a chance to make the playoffs right now. But this one, I felt we legitimately had a chance if we could help them figure it out, and the players can stay together during the process, especially when we hit adversity, because we hit adversity at different times during the season, not just us as a whole group, but even some guys individually, including myself. And so, you know, I did have that belief from day one. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but we're here, and, you know, there's a lot of people to thank because of it, but it starts with the players.
I'll turn it positive, though. We took a step. We took a step. You know, this is kind of how this works. You have to keep climbing. We are going in, you know, obviously a positive direction. You know, fell short. You know, there's no bigger motivator, right, to get to the next level. You know, think of this all season and development, and how we got the sacrifice we're going to need to, you know, make to get to the next level. But I'm proud of this group in terms of how they fought through adversity. You know, 1-2 game sevens. We took a step. I think we took a step mentally, from a mental toughness point of view. You know, so. I'm going to kind of lean on that. And again, we all know there's another 2 steps really you got to take if you know, that's the ultimate goal.
And who the Knicks will play still to be determined, because it looks like Oklahoma City and San Antonio are headed toward a long series. They'll play Game 5 tonight. Of course, we'll have a preview of that coming up later in the show. All right, the 2 big stories in baseball yesterday were the Chicago Cubs, starting with them. Remember that hot streak? Well, here's a cold streak. They've now lost 9 games in a row. The Pirates win as home dogs, and the Cubs lose yet again. Henry Davis had the game-winning hit here, and certainly Craig Counsell knows the Cubs are going to have to play better starting now.
We got to play better. We got to swing the bats better. We got to pitch better. We need more guys, you know, contributing to good stuff. And you know, as coaching staff, we got to figure out a way to get the players there. You know, we're offensively, we are equipped to be way more consistent than this and way better than this, and we need to show it.
All right, meanwhile, the bigger story maybe yesterday in sports, but naturally when you have the Cubs, they take the spotlight, were the Houston Astros throwing a no-hitter yesterday. But again, in this day and age of no-hitters, you got to be honest with yourself and understand that nobody really goes 9 innings anymore. So let's talk about it. Satsui Imai had his best start ever, 6 innings pitched, shut out, of course, 2 strikeouts. Stephen Oker came in after that. And then Elimber Santa made his major league debut and threw 2 innings in the no-hitter. But Oker was part of the no-hitter, first time ever, of course, in his career. He talked after the game about shutting down the Rangers completely.
It's like being part of a no-hitter.
Oh, incredible. You know, obviously, Imai went out and did what we'd hoped for there in 6 innings, but no hits, that's crazy. I feel like combined no-hitters are pretty hard. Like I told Julia earlier, it's like it's kind of hard when you're counting on 3 guys to all have it, in the same day. So it was a lot of fun.
It's been a struggle for the Orioles, meanwhile, this season, but they do pick up a series win against the Rays, 9-7. They win as slight home favorites. Colton Cowser had a walk-off home run, so that was the big blow there. In fact, his second walk-off in 3 days. He also did it last week against the Tigers. Jonathan Aranda homered for Tampa Bay, but here is Cowser on his walk-off in the 13th inning yesterday.
Honestly, probably one of my favorite wins as an Oriole. Back and forth, just always in the fight. Really proud of our guys for just keep showing up, keep grinding, and felt like we were one hit away there for about 4 innings. So really proud of our guys. Bullpen, hell of a job. Bradish, great start. Felt like it was about 4 hours ago. So.
Jacob Misiorowski continues to pitch like one of the very best in baseball. He wins again yesterday, 5-1 final, 12 strikeouts, tying his career high, and threw 57 pitches of at least 100 miles per hour as they beat the Cardinals 5-1. Here is Pat Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, on the Miz's outing against the Cardinals.
I mean, that's really special, man. Really special. Yeah, I mean, the consistency, pitching too, not just throwing, pitching. He's worked hard. He's earned it, and he continues to work hard in between starts. Again, I always credit the catcher. I think William did a magnificent job today with him.
Meanwhile, the Mets keep struggling, losing again. They've lost their 4th in a row. This time they lost to the Reds. It's becoming a trend. Nick Lodolo, 6 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts. Mets are back in last place. Here's Carlos Mendoza on yet another tough stretch.
What are you seeing from Bo Bichette now that you weren't seeing a month ago with runners in scoring position?
Well, we know he's one of the best hitters with runners since he's been that type of player. I think it's just a matter of time. Ground ball found a hole today, but I think you see a player that is confident. He's putting some ace swings on good pitches. He's pulling the ball when he needs to. He's using the whole field. Like the guy that we all know the type of hitter he is.
In the National Hockey League, the Stanley Cup Finals is approaching fast. Last night, the Hurricanes beat the Canadiens 3-2. So after Montreal won the first one, Carolina has stormed back to take a series lead, and Game 4 will be on Wednesday. Meanwhile, it would appear that the Vegas Golden Knights are headed toward the final again. They took care of the Avalanche and now lead 3-0. But they do play tonight and can close it out 9:20 p.m. Eastern as the Golden Knights are minus 104 on the money line. You see the Avs are slight favorites at minus 115. The total is 6.5, but Vegas right now in the driver's seat to potentially get back to the Stanley Cup Finals and await the winner of the Eastern Conference. Dustin Gouker is with us. Catch his Substack and podcasts on Event Contracts, which otherwise are known as prediction markets. He joins us now for the very latest. Dustin, great to have you, and hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend. All right, let's start off with Kalshi at this point. Where do they stand? Have things sort of changed at all in their landscape? Because naturally, prediction markets gearing up here for the World Cup and, of course, football season after that.
Yeah, a lot of the talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right? Because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. We had, looking at a graphic right now, we had the spike for the Super Bowl. And then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of the spring and summer until we get back to football season. But we've seen this line kind of straight up through well past March Madness and the Final Four into April, when there's the NHL and NBA playoffs, but usually there's far less. But then starting early May, we're seeing about $4 billion in volume, which, don't get me wrong, that's a crazy amount of money. That's a lot of money being traded at Kalshi that was not being traded this time last year. So this is with a bit of a grain of salt, but Kalshi, we've seen this plateau over the last month where it hasn't really grown. And again, not surprising. We're done with the NBA finals, with the NBA Eastern Conference Finals now, with the Knicks advancing, and we have just a few games left in the Western Conference Finals and then the finals. So we're seeing just a lot less. We're now, baseball season. Baseball is an important sport for sports betting and Kalshi, but it's usually just a lot less in terms of how much people bet on it, and there's just less to bet on over the summer. So it'll be interesting to see if this number kind of plateaus here, or if they start growing again, bucking that trend, or if over the summer things kind of go down. Like you said, we have the World Cup, which with the United States team, high hopes always to get out of group, and with the games actually being played here, we will see if all this kind of bucks the trend, or if we see kind of a decline over this. Kalshi still 85% sports and parlays right now as we sit here. So just something to track over the next few weeks and months as we head back into football season, which is, of course, when the rubber meets the road for sportsbooks and now prediction markets.
Absolutely so. The most promoted aspect of sportsbooks through the years have been the parlays, and even more so the single game parlays. And so it shouldn't be a surprise that prediction markets are going to be promoting these as well. But Dustin, they're not promoting parlays. They're promoting something like a parlay that's called something completely different. What are they trying to do here?
Craig, you like combinatoric athletic outcome contracts, don't you? Those are your favorite things to bet on. I know it is. These are just this is what Polymarket is calling parlays. We've generally seen the prediction market industry kind of stay away from the parlay language because that's the language of sports books. It's funny when this existed more so in Europe before it did here, at least online in sports betting. They're called ACCAs or accumulators. We've always had, of course, parlays in Nevada at sports books, but those were I'm sure you're old enough to remember the sheets with the parlays. You go to the sports book, they still exist, cards. Right? But now you just we build our own parlays, right? We go on FanDuel and DraftKings, and you click a bunch of bets, you put them in a bet slip, off it goes. This is a huge part of the prediction markets industry, trending toward almost a third of what a volume at Kalshi now is parlays. And Polymarket US is now launching its own parlays. We saw Gemini, which is the Winklevoss twins. They do the prediction market as well as a crypto exchange. They're doing parlays. This is a huge thing moving forward. For us, it's kind of funny. I'd never heard of the word combinatoric until I saw it in a filing from Polymarket. It is a real word. It's not something they invented, but it's super fun to see how we avoid sports betting language in prediction markets. But at the end of the day, this is a parlay. We're going to see more parlays at prediction markets as time goes on, and this will be the part of another thing we're going to be watching is if Polymarket really kind of ramps up and starts challenging Kalshi, because right now it's a rounding error compared to Kalshi, at least here in the United States. We're seeing $4 billion a week at Kalshi, and more like less than some just in the high 100 millions right now in terms of Polymarket. So it's got a lot of catching up to do. Again, will it do a big marketing push into World Cup? Will it do a big marketing push into the football season alongside FanDuel, DraftKings, Fanatics, all these other companies, Underdog, PrizePicks that are doing prediction markets? It'll be something that's going to be really fascinating to watch.
All right, let's wrap it up here with something you wrote about over on your Substack here, which is the very popular show Survivor that's now been on the air for a couple of decades. You've been able, I'm guessing, somewhere to bet on these in the past, but the host of the show seemingly is not a big fan of people trying to get information onto how this show is going to go. I know they usually film this in remote locations, but let's just be honest here, Dustin. There's a production team involved in this, and a lot of production. And those people have families, and those people have friends. So I don't think that he's a big fan of being able to really make predictions of this and seeing those odds change up and down constantly.
Yeah, and actually this came to a head because Kalshi and Polymarket offered Survivor markets, right? Who would win Survivor? Yes, let's point this out. Survivor happened a long time ago, right? People know who won. It might be a small cohort of people. They are under NDAs. There's lots of things, but I've been watching Survivor since almost the beginning, and this stuff leaks. If you want to go find it, it leaks. It's out in the world. It's on Reddit somewhere out there. So basically Kalshi had odds of the eventual winner, Aubrey Bracco. I don't think I'm spoiling this for anybody at this point. If you haven't watched Survivor, you're way behind. But that she would win she was like a huge favorite before the show, the first show ever aired, and then right before the finale was like a 97% favorite, something like that at Kalshi and Polymarket. So that's the part, like Survivor seeing this, and it got spoiled for a lot of people who don't usually get the spoilers, right? Because it's on social media, it's a lot of places. Let me tell you what Probst said, the host of the show. They figured out a way to capitalize on the show. It doesn't sit well with me as a human. I get it. They build a great business. They don't care. Clearly, if 90% of the people are voting for somebody, there's a leak. But to look at us, the producers, as though we have a problem, is the mirror pointing in the wrong direction. He says, prediction market platforms are the ones with the problem, not us. We went and made our show in a vacuum, and we keep it very tightly contained. But if you're foolish and naive enough to not think that somebody might leak it, that's your problem. And this gets to, like, prediction markets exist, and they're kind of creating this problem for people, right? The leaking happens, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things if people aren't betting on it. But because people are betting on it, and there's a lot of money, $30 million traded on the Survivor winner, now we have a problem. Now reality shows are having problems because of prediction markets.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Dustin, as always, great stuff. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks again.
Cheers.